I haven't done a blog update in quite a while, so I wanted to do one this month. A lot of things have been happening since my last blog update. We've had friends visiting, and then my mom came over last week for my birthday, and what a surprise that was. But I actually have been meaning to do video blog updates for quite a while now, but I just haven't had the chance. Obviously not. It takes a lot of effort because I have to set up my camera, and I have to, as you can see, I just set up in the lounge today. I didn't do all the special lighting and shit that I usually do, so just deal with it. Anyway, back to me. I wanted to talk a bit about the cord cutting. I've had quite a few cord cuttings, but I get the sense that people have a bit of a misconception about what it is, or they just want to try to see what it does. Either way, I'm going to give you what my cord cutting is about. Every living thing has a consciousness. Businesses have a consciousness of their own. Your country that you reside in has a consciousness of its own. The land mass on which your country resides has its own consciousness, and they all link in, the smaller to the greater, to the greater, to the greater. And we form relationships with those consciousnesses. We also form relationships with our friends and the people that we meet. But we also form relationships with people that we are not very acquainted with, but every interaction has a particular relationship, and it has its own entity that connects it. Most of those connections are satisfactory, some of them are beneficial, others are joyful. But in some instances, they're not that beneficial. They become toxic, they become grounds for bullying, people walk all over each other. It just becomes a shitty deal. And that's where cord cutting comes in. Now, coming back to relationships, the relationship that you have with a particular with another person, place, or event even connects you etherically, and psychics often describe it as a silver cord or a golden cord. It depends on what the situation and the person, or the person perceiving the cord might perceive it as silver or gold. It doesn't matter. What is important is that there is that line of connection, that cord of connection. It's like a telephone line. Now we feed off each other with these cords, and in a mutually beneficial relationship, the messages and the energy goes back and forth between the two parties. Others are relationships where we are supposed to only receive or supposed to only give. Like, I'm using a very silly example, but in the relationship between a parent, the parent and a child, the parent often gives more, and later on they might receive more from the child. That's not to say it's bad if the child only receives, if that child is brought up to also give. The child might not give to the parents, but the child will learn how to give to others because of the example that they received from their parents. In a job situation, you are supposed to be in a two-way street, where you give a service and you receive payment for it. And sometimes we receive more than what we bargain for, because we receive the opportunity for personal development. We receive interactions with other human beings. Thinking of my own job, years ago when I was in IT, I was a network administrator, desktop support technician, and an IT engineer, various job descriptions, various names for the same thing. But I had interaction with users, and I had to fix their computers, and I had to learn people skills, and I had to interact with those people, and I had to learn how to interact with them in a nice way. And sometimes it was not so nice, but it was an opportunity for me to grow as a person while I'm serving that user. So I had a relationship and a cord connected to the company that I was working for. When those cords are connected to people, places, or things that do not serve us or have become toxic, then we need to step back and reevaluate the situation, either change our attitude, but in some cases we can't, we struggle, so we need to cut those cords. Now this is where it becomes scary for some people, because some people think, and me too, I also believed it, that when you cut cords with the other person or the other place, you will sever ties and that person or place will completely disappear out of your life. Not true. It can happen, or it just changes direction, or it changes perception, or it changes dynamic. For instance, I did cord cutting with my parents because the relationship I had with both my parents was not conducive to a happy mental state. I come from an abusive background. If you want to, I'll tell you my story one day, but I'm not going to go into detail here. But I did cord cuttings with both parents for quite a number of times in succession, because there were various cords. Remember, you can have various cords on various levels. So I did the cord cuttings with them, and neither of my parents disappeared out of my life. They are still there, and the relationship I have with them has changed. My father, who I believe didn't accept me as a gay person, who I thought didn't care for me as his son, his eldest son, my relationship changed, and I actually got a different perspective about my father. And we now have a great relationship. We're not on each other's case all day, every day, but we've both changed, and our relationship with each other has changed. And the same for my mom. So it doesn't necessarily mean the person is going to be taken away from you, or they're going to leave your space. They're still going to be there. The dynamic is going to shift. So when this dynamic shifts, it can help the relationship. Now, I have to say, I have to be honest, I have to play open cards, that I have had clients who came to me for cord cutting, where shortly after the cord cutting, the person that they did the cord cutting with passed away. And she was quite frightened that the person that she might have killed this person because of the cord cutting. And when I went into it, when we looked at the situation, we came to realize that that person was probably just hanging on for her to forgive her for the things that have happened between them. And the cord cutting was the release she needed so that she could move on and lay down the physical body and pass on to the next life. We make agreements on a spiritual level, on a soul level, before we come into this incarnation to play certain roles in each other's lives. And the sense that I got from this situation was, on a soul level, it was agreed that person A would treat person B a certain way so that she could have certain experiences from this interaction to help her develop and grow as a human being. But she still felt bad about the way she treated her, because on a conscious level, on a level where she's aware of the reality that she's in, she probably realized that the way she's been treating person B is mean, is not nice, and she felt guilty for it. But when we come into contact with the people that we are in contract with, the contract overrides that our personality, and the contract will come out, and you will treat that person according to the contract that you set up. You may have come across a person where they push all your buttons and they make you react in a certain way, and they make you treat them a certain way. It's part of your contract. Accept it, but don't accept it to the point where you actually enjoy it or revel in it, and make yourself what's the word, where you justify the contract for your behavior. Change your fucking behavior, really. Always aspire to be better. If you recognize that this might be a contract that's playing out, you might actually be able to shift that contract and come into an agreement with that person that, listen, I've had my karma from this. I'm hoping you would have your karma, and then dissolve the situation. Now, coming back to the chords, as I said, they play out and they connect on different levels. So, for instance, you may have a relationship with your boss at work. He is a male chauvinist pig, and you may be let's take my situation, for example. I did not have a male chauvinist pig boss. My boss was actually quite nice. We just didn't see eye to eye. But I'm going to set up a hypothetical scenario. Male chauvinist pig, with me being a gay person who feels ostracized for being gay. So there's a power play, and he is a bully, for instance, maybe not, I don't know. He's a bully. So there's a connection between us. There's a cord that connects the solar plexus, for instance, to my solar plexus. So he steps on my courage and my self-esteem and everything that I radiate from my solar plexus. Another person in my life may be a friend that I have that also treats me like shit, but it's more of a person who plays with my heart. A person that I might have fallen in love with, and they know this and they use and abuse me accordingly. So they have a solar plexus to heart connection. So the cords between me and this person is firstly, mainly, his solar plexus or her solar plexus to my heart chakra. Now, if you don't know the chakras that well, doesn't matter. When we do the cord cutting, and when you come to me for a cord cutting, we will work towards feeling where you feel the connection, either through visualization or imagination or just sensing. It depends from person to person. We're not all visual people. Me, for instance, I'm not 100% visual. I'm more kinesthetic. So I feel how something feels for me. So I'll guide you through that, and then we'll do a cord cutting. And the whole cord cutting ritual is based on a healing release that I was taught while I did my Reiki level 1 training or Reiki Masters training? I think both. Yeah, we were taught how to do the release in Reiki 1, but in Reiki Masters, we were actually taught the nitty-gritty and the deeper levels. So the ritual we perform, I perform with you. We do it in a sacred circle, like with, if you know anything about Wicca, witchcraft, and magic, they perform all their magic spells and workings in a sacred circle. Once they've finished and happy with what happened within that circle, they open the circle and release it to the universe. So nothing goes out into the universe unless you are happy and satisfied with what happened there. It's just sort of to make things, help you to feel safe about what you're doing. Because sometimes something goes awry. You do the cord cutting and you think, no, hang on. On a soul level, soul talks to you. No, you haven't learned that lesson. You haven't had enough experience. You need to keep that cord. And then in that safe space, we cancel and nullify the work that has been done and then open the circle. Otherwise, we leave it and we open the circle and let the work, the energy work that we've done, go out into the universe and do the necessary. We also invoke healing blue light for you first, after you've done your cord cutting, and then for the other person, place, or thing that you did the cord cutting with, and then allow the healing to take place for both of you, because we don't leave anybody wounded, not consciously. Okay. What else is there? I invoke safe space. Everything is done in a controlled environment, and but the main thing that I wanted to get to you today was the fact that a cord cutting is to help you heal your relationships. I've had a friend come to me to do a cord cutting with the house that she was trying to sell for probably 2 or 3 years, just couldn't get it sold, because she was attached to the house, and there were certain things that she was attached to, like the outcomes and the results and so on. So we had to do a cord cutting with the house so that she could move on. And I don't think she actually sold the house. She actually accepted the house and realized, but this is where she wants to stay now. So her dynamic with the house changed. But in other instances, sometimes the person will, or the place will go away. Like with my job. I actually did a cord cutting with the company that I was working for. And because I was working in Joburg and I had to drive through from Pretoria to Joburg every day, and that was too much. So I did a cord cutting with the company that I was working at, and sadly, the company that I was working for, because I was contracted, lost that contract, so they had to move me. But they got other contracts, and that particular contract became bigger, so they didn't lose, they just needed to shift their focus, and something old had to move so that they could shift into a new space. So yes, that's the cord cutting. That's what cord cutting comes down to. It's a tool that you can use to heal your life, the life of the people around you, and allow everybody to grow. So contact me, let me know, let's do a cord cutting. I usually do it after the full moon, because that's a waning energy, a drawing energy. It's when we do start releasing stuff. So check my newsletters, check my Facebook page, check my blog, check my website. I usually put up the dates for all of my events. And I'd love to connect with you.